Hello, my name is Daniel Okloen and we are back to talk about the Sony ZV-E1. I already made a video explaining how I set up my camera for photo mode. So I got this camera as kind of a backup to my Sony A1 and the other cameras, but mostly when I'm traveling the Sony A1. As a small photo camera that can do video. Sounds a bit weird, but I want to have something small that is small in the back, and I can, even with the lens attached, put in a hole where normally a lens goes, so it does not take that much extra space, and I figured this one was the correct one for this. Now, of course, it has way less dials, and I was not really a video shooter like many of you, so the way that I set it up might be interesting for some of you, because I might be using tricks that none of you are using because I'm more coming from this photo angle. So some buttons are the same as in photo mode, and others are slightly different because they make sense to me. So I will post this on the Facebook group, which is created for this camera, and see how people react. But let's get going. I didn't prepare this video, I normally don't. So I will also soon, probably after this one, make a video about my general impressions about the camera. So subscribe and like if you want that. So let's get going. So first thing, because we have so little buttons, I am using all the buttons that we have. So my generic concept is that, especially in video mode, I don't want to change settings by accident. So that means that I've removed many of the dial functions. So you can see that none of the dials are doing anything. Also, the buttons that I'm using are, I would say, in safe mode. That means that you always need to do, 9 out of 10 times, you need to do 2 things at the same time before a setting changes. This sounds like troublesome, but let me show you what I mean. So first, in the menu, and I won't show you anything in the menu. If you really have trouble with that, just post a comment and I will consider making an extra video on it, but I'm pretty sure there are other videos online explain this. I might give a hint left and right, but that's about it. So in the menu, you can turn all your custom buttons and your dials, you can turn all of them off. That seems to be kind of stupid because then you can't use the dials, but there is an interesting function which is called customize dial buttons, and you can press them to activate some actions. So the first one, let me first show the one on top because that might be a bit easier. So I reprogrammed, like most people doing that, my shutter button is the record button. That means that this button is now free. So when I press this button, the camera does something totally different. We have to go for this one. If I press it, you see that then I have enabled the dials. So with the customized dials, which you can put on the button, so you can set the different things you want different dials to do, and then you can activate them while pressing a button. So if I press this button, you'll see that I do the ISO and the focus mode. But on the button on my lens, because all my lenses have this button, if I press it, you can see that it enables the 2 most important settings for video, which is your aperture and your shutter speed, right? So if I now do this, you can see I'm changing my shutter speed. Let's put it 100. But if I don't have it pressed, it doesn't do anything. So it's protected. Press it, easy, and I can live change it to any value I want. Same with the aperture. If I press it, I can use this dial to change it. Now, of course, I'm not going to show you, but I hope you assume this. If I have the lens in my hand, it's really easy to press this button and basically enable the dials to do the actions we are talking about. The same with the top button, which we already now talked about. If I press that one, you can see I'm changing the focus mode, which is really handy because if you're holding it in one hand, you can press it and quickly change it to different modes. Now recording, sorry. So if I press it, you can see that I quickly can change into the different modes. So wide and etc, etc, etc. Very easy. So now we are in zone. And you're done. The other one, because you also don't change it, at least I don't change that much, is your ISO. So if I press it, you can see we are probably on auto. Yes, we are on auto, but you can see that I can change it by hand. But if I don't press it, it's safe. So we have done 2 things. A, we have secured in many ways. Let me put this back for later on auto. In this case, that's easier. Here we go. So we are using the two dials, but we can, by quickly pressing one of these two buttons, basically we have 4 dials, which is handy, right? So we now talked about this button and about this button, so that's done. Then the button over here, which is this button, so it normally uses a function. I think this one was, let me check. That was the function that you can use for your product focusing trick. I don't use that, so I'm okay with removing that. So what I put there is basically my switch between manual focus and not manual focus. As you can see, we are probably in photo mode. No, we are not in photo mode. So you can see, I don't understand why it's not showing us. Let me put it in manual just to check. I will admit that I'm a bit confused because normally we have focus peaking is on. I'm sorry. You can see that the focus peaking on the eyes now comes on, and if I put it on automatic, it should do the same thing. Indeed, you see that it does show us focus on the eyes. It was a little bit hard to see, but you can see it's working. I can probably aim it to the wall a bit and roll the focus for you, so you can see we are now in auto. But if I press this button again, very close normally to your finger, I can manually roll the focus over the back wall. And let's say I put it here, for example, and then turn it back on. You see that it jumps automatically to another position. Back to our little doll. Let me also change the little doll. I have not changed it for a while. So different thing on it. So that's the top button. Now the same team is kind of going for the other things. So on this button, you see, again, I programmed one of the dials. So we are now already 1, 2, 3 functions for each dial. So we are basically getting 6 dials. Now this one is the hardest for me to press when I'm behind the camera. So I'm also putting stuff there that I don't change a lot. So the first thing that, the first thing that you are seeing when it shows up, again, it explains here what the buttons are, right? So if I press this one, you see the focus mode and the ISO. If I press this one, it tells me one is the microphone input and the other one is the Kelvin setting. So this one should now have the volume. You can see that I can quickly now change the volume of my microphone just by pressing, right? So just by pressing this button, I can set the microphone level. It's almost impossible to do it quicker, in my opinion. So yeah, that's that button. Then the event button is kind of the same button, but let me show you something there which I think is interesting, especially for video. Is this is not a trick that I came up with. There's other people, but there is a sub trick to it. So in this camera you can set different memories. So one thing that you can do is, for example, if you want to have 50p or 100p in different bit rates and different resolutions, you can actually program that by programming a memory setting. There are 3 settings, and you can also put 4 on disk. You can't recall them anymore by a button, which is kind of weird, but that's what it is. You can do that on other Sony cameras, but I've put them in the event menu. So if I'm in the event menu, you see that we are now in manual, right? And we can click on it and then go to memory setting 1 or even memory setting 2, right? So you can see you have to press a few buttons, but now I'm in 100p HD. Well, if I go here and move back to the other setting, so I have to press it and then move it, which already is difficult for me because there's 3 or 4 button actions. But here's the trick I wanted to show you, which works on many of these functions. If you just leave it on the position you want to change, right? So in this case, you're able to directly control the setting. Why is this important? So here we have memory setting 1 and 2. You see? 1 and 2. And of course, we also have the number 3 and the ones which are on disk which are not set. Why is this important? Let me check to make sure. A little bit difficult to see. But now you can see we are 50p, right? Let's assume I want to switch quickly from 50p to 100p HD, right? So I want to do or whatever setting you have, 25 and whatever, right? You can program most of these settings into this memory. And if you then hit the FN button, change one setting, press again, we are now recording in 100p. Want to move to the other one? Stop recording, hit the button, go back to the other one, and we are now recording in 4K and active crop, etc., etc. Let me show that again. I don't think I can do that live, because of course then it's grayed out. So if I want to record something different, I'm already on this setting, right? Turn it, press it, I'm in 100p. I don't think there's a faster way of doing this without using a special button for it, which I don't think is possible, by the way, to change these memory settings. So again, stop it, press the FN button, move back to the other mode, hit it again. So I'm not sure how to do this quicker. Stop it, press the FN button, go to the other, press the FN button, go to the other mode, hit it again. So there's two tricks here. The moment that you hit one of the buttons, you go out of the menu, but also that it live activates. And this works for quite a few functions. Not all of them on this camera. I have no idea why. For example, you can't do this on your stabilization mode. You also, which I find really weird, can't do this on if you're doing active crop in active crop mode. But there are other modes where it does work. So for example, I'm pretty sure it works on this one. So recognition of your subject, you can see, no, you still have to press. Let me see if any of them work live, or is it just this one? Yeah, this one. For some reason, so inconsistency on Sony part, but I can do this live interaction with the different touchscreen modes. So let me put it on touch to focus AI, touch to focus. That should also, oh, we are not in photo mode, so touch to focus, for example, I can leave it in there. Maybe also on peaking, no. But you can see on this one, I can change it live, which is kind of nice. I'm also assuming that this one controls the other one. Yes, I didn't check that before. So let me notice. So basically, on all the Sony cameras, these two dials, you can do the, let's say this menu and this menu, if that makes sense. So if I go back into the this mode, you can see that if I move it with this one, I go to the main settings, right? So shutter mode, aperture, program, intelligent, and then we go back to this memory setting. And this one I can control the different memory settings. Hope it still makes sense. But to be fair, for now I just use it for this trick. Now for the other things, just to complete that, you can do the direct manipulation, but you first have to press it. So let's say I wanted to change this one, I have to first click it, and now I can change it, also with the dials. And also that's a memory, you don't have to okay it. So what I mean with that is for all the functions on the Sony, if you didn't notice this, so if I can go into this one, and I change to planes, I can already click it now, and it's now in plane mode. You see, it's in plane. So you don't have to okay it. So many people go like this, they change it to, let's say, human again, then click it and then go back. You can do that directly by pressing the record button, for example, or if you're in photo mode, by directly clicking the photo mode. So yeah, that's about that. Then in the middle, I've put, and don't think it will do anything now, but I hope you believe me. If I press in the middle, if I click it, it will go to auto framing mode. And I find it quite handy, especially if you're using it as a webcam. So you have the camera the other way around. Then on the back of the camera, it's quite easy to press this button and it goes into that mode. So I like that there. Now on the this side, I put the menu, the quick menu. So the big quick menu, the new menu. So for all the functions that I don't have. And again, you can cancel this. This is also an interesting trick. Of course, if I press the shutter button to cancel the menu, it will start recording. You might want that, but if you now use one of the other buttons, so especially this button, which doesn't do anything by itself, right? It only enables the dials. If I now press this button, you see it goes out of the menu. So it kind of automatically cancels it for you. Then the up one, of course, just this display. This one, I've turned on the touchscreen functions. So normally I don't want to have the touchscreen active at all. But if, of course, have the camera flip to me, I want to be quick to enable the touchscreen or not. So I put it here. Again, it does not really stop you from doing anything because it still needs another function before something happens. So if it happens by mistake, it's not a big deal, but you can use that. I'm also assuming, and I've never tested this, that if I select, for example, this one, I can use the dial. Yes, you can. So keep in mind that on most of the Sonys, you can kind of combine these different direct controls. So let me put it back in ISO auto. Yeah, I find it kind of interesting that you can do that. But I really sometimes want to have the touch interface off. And this is a good way to turn it on and turn it off. And the down, I forgot what I put. Or the down, I put exposure control. And again, you can also use the dials to do that. And cancel it. Then the last button is this button. Is the same. I set it up in the normal mode. So what I mean by that is if you change focus mode. So let me do that. So let me go into this one, for example. If I press it, it cancels where it was focusing. So it's a standard focus. It's mostly used in photo mode. I think we covered all the buttons. Let me think. If I forgot something. Of course, everybody will have the different functions in the FN one. But unless I forgot something, I think this is about it for the buttons. And you already noticed that the main tricks for me is to make sure that nothing can happen if I kind of touch or shake the dials or whatever. One thing which I find a pity that we can't use these top dials. Or maybe we should show you. These are in photo mode very underused, but even in video mode, I find the pity that it does not simulate the dial here. So I can see if you want to zoom in and zoom out, that works, but you can't always zoom in and zoom out. Now I've got a power zoom on there, but let's assume we have a prime and we are not using clear zoom because, for example, we are using active tracking, which we now are, right? Then you can't use this zooming in and zooming out because it's not a power zoom, it will give you an error. And instead of giving the error, I would not mind that if I'm in a menu, that this front dial can also be used to change settings. It would be kind of similar how it feels on a camera that does have a front dial. So I think this is about it. Hopefully there were some interesting hints for you. Please let me know in the comments about this, what you think about it, especially about the disabling of most of the dials and the buttons and enabling by doing one more extra action. So for example, pressing a button. So thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.